Have you ever lain in bed at night, silence pressing in, and wondered what it might truly feel like to grow old alone? Not the kind of thought we welcome. It arrives quietly, without warning, a whisper, really, and yet, once it's there, it lingers. It's not something many people consider until they're already living it. Friends move away. Family gets busy. The daily noise of life fades until what's left is a quiet that can feel less like peace and more like absence. But here's something worth holding on to. Solitude and loneliness are not the same. In fact, growing older alone doesn't have to mean growing old in sorrow. What if the years ahead could still be vibrant, rich with purpose, color, and calm joy? What if the quiet of an empty house could become a sanctuary instead of a cage? You're not alone in wondering this. And you're not without tools to shape the answer. In this video, we'll explore 6 simple, yet powerful habits. These aren't magic spells or complex life overhauls. They're gentle daily practices, easy to start, deeply healing when sustained. With them, you can craft a life that nourishes your mind, enlivens your spirit, and reminds you that even in solitude, you are never truly without connection. We'll meet people just like you. Robert, who found meaning again in a quiet cup of morning tea. Alina, who rediscovered strength in every step. Frank, who laughed again over a chessboard. Janet, who reignited her mind with a single Spanish word. George, who wrote his way back to hope. And Margaret, who found purpose in giving again. These stories aren't just comforting. They're maps, and each one points to a truth you already carry within you. You still have power. You still have a say in how your days unfold. So if you're ready to stop merely passing time and start shaping it, if you're curious about how to make solitude a space for growth, reflection, and joy, stay with me. This is more than a list. It's a gentle invitation to see aging not as a retreat, but a new kind of becoming. Let's begin. First, keep your mind stimulated. Imagine this: your mind, once a bustling intersection of memories, ideas, and curiosity, now slowly dims. Not with drama, but like a room where the lights are fading one by one. Many people accept this quiet decline as a natural part of aging. But it doesn't have to be. Your brain isn't a dusty attic of old memories. It's alive, hungry even, for stimulation, challenge, and new ideas. Like your muscles, it needs exercise. Without it, mental fog creeps in. Names slip away, conversations blur, days begin to blend into each other. But here's the good news. Just as you can strengthen your body, you can also sharpen your mind. Take Janet, for example, a 74-year-old retired teacher. Her days used to be filled with chalk dust and children's questions. After retiring, she swapped the classroom for the quiet hum of television reruns. At first, she didn't notice the small slips, lost keys, forgotten appointments. Just getting old, she told herself. But one afternoon, as she fumbled for a familiar word and came up empty, something shifted. That spark, the one that had always loved learning, flickered back to life. She dusted off a novel from her bookshelf, cracked it open, and started reading again. The next morning, she sat at her kitchen table with a crossword and a sharpened pencil. The clues were slow at first, but her brain began to hum. Then came something bold, an online Spanish course. Just for fun, she told herself. But within weeks, she was trading phrases with her neighbors, stumbling but laughing, alive with the rhythm of learning. The fog began to lift. Her confidence returned. Her joy deepened. Mental stimulation doesn't need to be dramatic. It could be as simple as listening to a podcast while sipping your morning coffee. Journaling your thoughts before bed. playing a word game on your tablet, even sharing a story with a grandchild. Science echoes this truth. Staying mentally active reduces the risk of cognitive decline and dementia. It improves focus, mood, and even sleep. It builds what researchers call cognitive reserve, your brain's backup system, built through use and variety. So ask yourself, what have you always wanted to try? A new language, sketching trees outside your window, learning the basics of astronomy. There's no pressure to master anything. The joy is in the process. In the moment your thoughts stretch and grow. Stimulation is not just an activity. It's a declaration. I'm still curious. I'm still learning. I'm still here. Janet's Spanish wasn't flawless, but every word she spoke was a tiny act of defiance against decline. You can do the same. Start small, stay consistent, and let your mind come alive again. Second, help others to find meaning. There's a certain ache that comes with solitude. Not just the absence of others, but the absence of feeling needed. When the world no longer leans on you, it's easy to feel like you've stepped out of its rhythm, no longer part of the music. But here's a quiet truth. One of the most powerful ways to heal that ache is to give. Helping others doesn't require grand gestures. It doesn't demand perfect health, a crowded schedule, or a long list of skills. It just asks for one thing: your presence. Margaret, at 82, once walked hospital halls with steady steps and a nurse's calm purpose. Retirement took that away. Her children, now adults with families of their own, lived far from her quiet apartment. Her days were filled with more silence than speech. "Felt like I disappeared," she whispered once, her voice barely louder than her memories. Then, one rainy Tuesday, she walked into a local food bank. She wasn't sure why, maybe just to pass time. An apron was tied around her waist, and soon her hands were sorting cans of soup. Next to her, a young mother murmured thanks. A man asked where the rice was kept, and slowly, without her even realizing it, Margaret began to bloom again. She returned the next week, and the next. Her steps had purpose now. Her laughter returned. She even made a few friends, one of whom she now bakes cookies with on Sundays. Her world, once dimmed by isolation, grew brighter with each person she helped. That's the quiet miracle of giving. It reaches outward, yes, but it also heals inward. Acts of service, no matter how small, tether you to something larger than yourself. They remind you that you still have value, still have something to offer. Science supports what Margaret already knew in her heart. Volunteering reduces feelings of loneliness, depression, and anxiety. It boosts self-esteem and even physical health. When you focus on others, your brain releases feel-good chemicals, oxytocin, dopamine, that lift your mood and regulate stress. But beyond biology, there's something deeper at work, a sense of meaning. You don't have to sort food or join an organization to feel this. Write a letter to a lonely friend. Call someone who might need your voice. Offer advice to a younger neighbor. Knit a blanket for someone in need. Share a memory that could lift another's spirit. Each act, no matter how small, is a thread that ties you back into the fabric of life. Margaret no longer feels invisible. She feels vital again. And you can too, because when you reach out to help someone, what you're really doing is helping yourself come back to life. Third, prioritize physical movement. Picture a body that once moved with ease. A brisk walk to the store, arms reaching high to hang fresh laundry, dancing in the kitchen just because the music called. Then slowly, over time, those motions shrink. Joints complain, legs hesitate, and soon, stillness settles in. But here's the truth: stillness is not rest. It's surrender. Movement, no matter how small, is not only essential to physical health. It's an anchor to independence, to dignity, to feeling alive. You don't have to run marathons or lift weights in a gym. That's not what this is about. It's about maintaining the strength to climb your porch steps, the balance to carry a bowl of soup without fear, the flexibility to reach for your favorite mug. These are not luxuries. These are lifelines. Consider Alina. At 78, this retired librarian once wandered tall shelves, balancing books and guiding children through story hour. After retirement, she traded the rustle of pages for the quiet embrace of her recliner. At first, it seemed peaceful. Then she noticed her knees stiffened. A walk to the mailbox left her breathless. Bending to pick up a dropped fork felt like a challenge. "I thought it was just age," she said, eyes downcast. But when a friend invited her to a morning walking group, she reluctantly joined. The first walk was short, barely a block. Her legs ached, her breath caught. But the sound of leaves crunching underfoot, the gentle chatter of new friends, it stirred something. She returned the next day, and the next. Within weeks, her posture straightened, her sleep deepened. Her mornings began with gentle stretches, arms reaching to the ceiling, breath steady. She even caught herself humming again, the way she used to in the library's quiet corners. Alina's story isn't rare. It's possible for anyone. You just have to begin. Chair stretches, light yoga, tai chi, a walk to the garden gate. Each movement fuels circulation, preserves muscle, sharpens balance. Studies show that regular physical activity reduces the risk of dementia, lifts mood, and eases chronic pain. It's not about chasing youth. It's about preserving vitality. Your body remembers how to move. It just needs a reason. Put on a song you love. Sway, even if it's just from your seat. Sweep the floor. Tend to your plants. Reach toward the window and wave at the world. The more you move, the more capable you feel. The more capable you feel, the more confident you become. And confidence leads to freedom. Start where you are. Today, not someday. Alina's first steps were shaky. Yours might be too. But every motion is a message to yourself. I'm still here. I'm still strong. I still matter. Fourth, practice gratitude and reflection. Close your eyes for a moment. Listen, not to the world around you, but to the echo of what once was. The laughter of loved ones now gone, the soft rustle of footsteps in a house that feels a little too quiet, the memories that arrive without knocking. It's easy, with age, to count what we've lost. The years take much. People, places, routines we once held dear. And if we're not careful, our gaze remains fixed on the rearview mirror, where grief quietly grows. But what if, instead of clinging to what's missing, we made space for what remains? Gratitude is not about ignoring pain. It's about choosing to see joy in the spaces where pain once lived. Reflection, paired with gratitude, becomes a quiet form of resilience, a way to steady the heart and soften the edges of solitude. George, a 79-year-old retired firefighter, knows this deeply. After losing his wife Mary, the home they shared felt more like a hollow shell than a place of comfort. Her garden sat untended. Her favorite mug remained untouched. The chair where she once read quietly now sat empty, too full of memory to bear. "I felt like time had stopped," he admitted. Nights were the hardest. Sleep wouldn't come, and the silence pressed in like a weight on his chest. Then, at the gentle suggestion of a counselor, George began keeping a gratitude journal. Just 3 lines a day. It felt silly at first, forced, even. But he tried. "The sun warmed my face this morning. My granddaughter laughed at my joke. The smell of fresh coffee filled the kitchen. Little things. But slowly, those small lines created a shift. Each evening, he added a moment of reflection. Sitting on the porch, watching the wind move the trees, he'd ask himself, what did today teach me? What memory surprised me? Grief didn't vanish, but it no longer drowned him. There was space now. Space for hope, for peace, even for joy. Science backs what George discovered: gratitude eases depression, lowers blood pressure, and improves sleep. Reflection deepens self-awareness and clarity. Together, they anchor you in the present, while allowing the past to rest gently in its place. You don't need a fancy journal, a notepad, a sticky note. Even a quiet thought before bed will do. Try naming 3 things each day that made you smile. Then sit with them. Let them remind you there's still beauty here. Gratitude and reflection won't erase loss, but they will remind you that you're still alive, still capable of wonder. They turn the ordinary into sacred, the quiet into calm. Like George, you may never stop missing those you've lost, but you can choose to let the light in again. One moment of gratitude, one breath of reflection, one soft, healing step forward at a time. 5th, stay socially connected. Loneliness rarely arrives loudly. It tiptoes in, slow, quiet, like a shadow stretching across a room once filled with laughter. One day, you notice the phone hasn't rung, the mailbox is empty, conversations grow rare, and silence becomes a familiar sound. But here's the truth. You don't have to fill your calendar with parties or surround yourself with a crowd to feel connected. Connection isn't about quantity. It's about warmth, presence, the quiet knowledge that someone sees you and that you see them. Frank knows this well. At 80, he'd already faced the unimaginable, losing Clara, his wife of over 50 years. Their home, once a place of music and shared routines, now echoed with absence. The television became his company, the silence between scenes stretching like a canyon. He waited for calls that rarely came. "They're busy," he'd say with a shrug, excusing his grown children's full lives. But deep down, the stillness hurt. It crept into his chest and settled there, heavy and unshackable. Then one afternoon, he picked up the phone, not to wait, but to call. An old friend answered. Their voices cracked with age and emotion, but within minutes, they were laughing like boys again, trading stories as if no time had passed. That single call lit a spark. Frank joined a local senior group. He started playing chess online with strangers who became regulars. He even began writing short letters, just a paragraph or 2, to old coworkers, neighbors, distant cousins. Connection returned, not all at once, but thread by thread. And with it came something precious: vitality. Studies show that social engagement is as critical to your health as exercise or diet. Loneliness, on the other hand, can increase the risk of depression, heart disease, even dementia. But it's not about grand gestures. A wave to a neighbor, a chat at the grocery store, a video call with a grandchild. These are the stitches that mend the fabric of your days. Technology can help. Don't be afraid to try. Video chats, group texts, even online classes or games. They're not just for the young. They're bridges, and you can cross them. But the most important step, reaching out, taking the first move. Even if your voice trembles, even if the connection feels rusty, what you'll find on the other side isn't just another person. It's a version of yourself that feels seen, heard, needed. Frank didn't join a crowd. He found a few good people, a few good moments, and they changed everything. So if the quiet feels too loud, pick up the phone. Send a message. Say hello. You're not meant to drift through these years. You're meant to be held in the current of connection. You still belong. Sixth, build a daily routine. There's something unsettling about waking up with nowhere to go. No plan, no anchor. Just a silent room, the slow tick of a clock, and hours stretching ahead, shapeless, empty. In the early stages of aging alone, this is often the first challenge people face. Not illness, not grief, but drift. That quiet slipping away from rhythm, from purpose. Without the structure of a job, or a partner, or children to organize the day, time can feel like water through your fingers. But here's the secret: a routine isn't a cage. It's a compass. It gives shape to your hours, direction to your energy, and comfort to your soul. Robert, a 76-year-old retired engineer, learned this the hard way. After his wife Ellen passed, his days collapsed inward. He woke at noon, or 3 a.m. Time no longer mattered. Meals became an afterthought, replaced by weak coffee and background television. It all felt pointless. He later said, his voice heavy with memory. Then one evening, after a particularly hollow day, he grabbed a scrap of paper. On it, he wrote a simple list: wake at 700 a.m., brew tea, go for a short walk, cook lunch, call his daughter, read before bed. At first, it felt mechanical, like going through the motions. But something happened. The morning air during his walk carried the scent of dewy grass. The tea tasted richer when sipped in stillness. The phone call brought laughter that lingered, and the novel by his bedside transported him somewhere else entirely. Slowly, Robert reclaimed his day, not by packing it full, but by giving it shape. Your routine doesn't need to be grand. It could be watering the plants at sunrise, listening to a calming playlist while making breakfast, writing a few lines in a journal before sleep. These small acts aren't just habits, they're handholds. They tether you to the moment and remind you you're still living. Research supports this. Routines improve sleep, reduce anxiety, enhance cognitive function, and even lower the risk of depression. But beyond the science, there's something deeper. A routine gives you agency. In a world that can sometimes feel unpredictable, your daily rhythm becomes a steady hum beneath the noise. If your days feel like they're blurring, start small. Choose just one anchor, maybe a morning stretch, or an afternoon walk. Let it guide you. Let it grow. Because when your life has rhythm, even the quietest moments begin to sing. Robert's days no longer feel empty. They feel intentional. And that intention, that simple act of showing up for yourself, can change everything. Step back for a moment. Let everything we've explored settle quietly in your mind. 6 habits, 6 simple choices, and yet, together, they hold the power to reshape not just your days, but your relationship with aging itself. You've met Janet, who reminded us that the mind is not a relic. It's a garden still ready to bloom. You've walked with Margaret, who found meaning in giving again. You've moved alongside Alina, rediscovering strength with every step. You've paused with George to breathe, reflect, and write his way toward healing. You've smiled with Frank as he reached across the silence to feel life stir again. And you've seen Robert turn scattered hours into a life full of gentle purpose. None of them escaped loss. None of them avoided the realities of solitude, but all of them made a choice, a small, intentional choice, to live, to engage, to care. That's what this journey is really about. Growing older alone doesn't mean growing old in despair. It can mean deep rest, quiet clarity, a slower but richer rhythm. Solitude can be sacred. Silence can be soothing. But it takes effort, a kind of quiet courage, to shape that space instead of shrinking inside it. the habits we've explored, mental stimulation, acts of service, physical movement, gratitude, connection, routine, aren't about resisting time. They're about walking with it. They're not escapes, they're invitations. You can still create, still impact, still laugh, stretch, stumble, rise. You can still love yourself, others, even life itself. So, what comes next? Maybe you start with a small list on a slip of paper, like Robert, or a single call, like Frank, a walk, a journal entry, a shared recipe. You don't have to do it all at once. Start with one. Let that one ripple outward. There is no expiration date on your ability to grow. Yes, the world changes. People move on. And some days will still be hard. But within you is a well of wisdom, resilience, and quiet beauty that the years have not erased. They've deepened it. You still matter. Not just in memory, but in this moment, right now. So don't wait for someone to rescue your days from emptiness. Craft them, shape them, fill them. You have so much to offer, so much left to feel, to notice, to give. Growing older alone isn't the end of the story. It might just be the beginning of a chapter that belongs wholly to you. And if you let it, it can be your most meaningful yet.